Hey, well, here we are, June, Detractors Institute, Metaphysics, and Evolution. We're having a little bit of a discussion on summer solstice because that's coming up, so a little breakaway. We're still in the idea of talking about cycles, energy within those cycles, but this is a perfect example of one because we have our medicine wheel out at the Alta Vista Botanical Gardens, and looks like we got some reflections going on. We got windows open. Great day here in California, all I gotta say. Anyway, at Alta Vista Botanical Gardens, we have the medicine wheel, which was graciously built by Brian Morse, who is a architectural landscaper, very imaginative in some of his work. And if you've seen any pictures that we share every once in a while, you have seen some of it, including this medicine wheel, 32-foot wide circled wheel. And we initiated in last year, winter, which was a great place to start. And now we have gone through winter, spring, and we are coming upon summer solstice. Summer solstice has a lot going on for it, though, and just some quick words on this, because we are founding the first pillar that is within the wheel. The north is very open. Why? Because when we look into the north, there's very few stars in the north. We are rising once again, although our memories may not serve us well. Once again, we are rising above a galactic plate of stars and stellar mass. And as we are rising up above that at about 60 degrees, moving as quickly as we are, and we won't go into the math of that, it seems very slow to us because of the overall scale of the cosmos, universally speaking. And that area of blankness in the north has been recognized for a long time by ancient groups, tribal traditions, and such. And it is that emptiness of that field that we view as creation itself, because it starts from a vast level of emptiness, even though it is far from empty or vacant of anything. Its appearances are weak to us for what we can see from the human aspect. Our vision is not the full scope of the field of seeing things. So what we look at is rather empty. When we come to and that is a creative point in the north, and that is the crown aspect when we reach to the south, which we'll get to. And in the east, we spoke about the creative side once again, but the east actually has something to do where it's not a creation out of that nothingness of the north. By the time it comes around, we have already gone through some phases and we are already standing, as if though we are ready to take our first step to the mountain, so to speak. Where these traditions overlap, across the world globally. Like I've told people before, I don't stem too much from a lot of religious views, but a lot of global traditions, the Kabbalah, the Tao, I Ching, Mesoamerican works, and Native American. And these traditions begin to speak about the fact that we are already standing when we get into the east. It is as though we are prepared to take the first step to this mountain. And that is the beginning of the journey. So it is not a creative point like the north. So we are getting into the south. And in the south is the foundation or the base of the crown aspect of the north portion of the wheel. And even though some of these traditions may not necessarily be written down, there isn't any, I have to state this, there isn't any real written knowledge for the medicine wheel, but its practices are in the heart and in the mind. And yes, it is a native thing, but it's also rather global. I mean, let's take a good look at Stonehenge. But when we come into the south, that founding pillar, this pillar is the upright axis, which is referred to as the scaffolding of the heavens in some traditions. And that upright is basically like a line, like a funnel that comes down, and it's very wide at the top. It funnels down almost to a belt level, like an hourglass, and it opens up again. And this is that whole Coriolis torus effect that we talk about that exists around our very earth, let alone our bodies. Okay, it is a founding level of that because it roots it between the feet and our head, in a sense. Okay, and that gets into a lot of Kabbalah, but these traditions are so global that they can interconnect and they weave a very, very different story of who and what we are. But when we get into the South, we are talking about healing. That is the big thing. A change that is in its mid stages, as if though it had begun in the East and it will end in the West. And we'll talk about that when we get to that point of time, to the autumnal equinox, and in the fall. And in the South, this level of healing, though, has a lot to do with where we are now. When we're talking about all these cycles, I mean, year by year, we go through this, day by day, hour and hour, moment by moment. We walk through these essences. We pass through these energies in our own thoughts and our own being. And so the South has a lot to do with this healing. We discuss these things. There is something that is commonly referred to as a red tie ceremony, and this has a lot to do with vacating, emptying ourselves. It's done for ceremonial reasons for a variety of different intents. It's not just for burial rites. Relationships break up. The loss of things we need to detach from is lying in this. See, it is our feet, and our feet cannot continue through a certain journey if we are carrying a lot of weight of a past. And that past began in the East, originated in the North, and as we come around, like on the clock, even though it appears clockwise, we are talking counterclockwise motions. Because the view that we are looking at from that northern hemisphere is an oddity. And this is where one has to realize that when we look at wheels like Stonehenge and stuff like that, the point of contact on the ground is what really matters. Let's see, the stones standing upright, or like at henges and stone circles like this, only verify the fact that they are seated on the earth or into the earth. Okay, there is a level of energy that it passes through from air into earth right at the point of that interfacing, where the stones are resting on the ground. The ground level is very important in this thinking. And granted, natives will tell you a variety of different things on this because there were hundreds of different tribal groups. But so much of the thinking does have a weave to it, a pattern to it. And that south point we're going to get into with the red tie is to empty. See, because we've come halfway point. It's almost like saying you have inhaled, you are beginning to prepare to exhale. All right? And in that moment of beginning that process, change occurs, transitions occur. The evidences of things need to roll over. Okay? This is the stage that we are in. This is where all the confusion and things come from. So it's kind of important that we have daily, momentary, to daily, to weekly, to monthly, yearly, and within our lives, these points where we empty. And when we are emptying, it definitely calls for some kind of ceremony that we need to celebrate in that. There's a passage between prayer and meditation. Prayer where we are speaking, meditation where we are listening. These roll over. These energies, these intents, everything. And now is a time of those celebrations, those ceremonies that we can have with ourselves and with each other. It's time to gather, in other words. And when we are gathering, because we've been singular between the north and the east, and now we are beginning to gather into a southern point that will rise up into the west. And as it rises up into the west, the gathering becomes more and more intense. And it has to cycle over again. And we'll talk about that when that happens. But please make note that in our southern regions like this, here it is in summer, the balance between heat and cold, darkness and light, all of these things begin to take relevance, and they begin to become part of the ritual that we celebrate singularly into the ceremony that we celebrate when we gather. And so on Earth Speak, and creative healing. By the very graces of Alta Vista Botanical Gardens, we will celebrate summer solstice and discuss these things and share between ourselves. We need involvement. We need community. And this is where we are rising as, not into. We are rising as this collective. We've been into it before. We'll do it again. This time, I think we're going to actually take many steps forward. Looking forward to it, speaking with you more. Thank you once again to Tracky's Metaphysics Institute here. And definitely looking forward to this celebration, and anybody who cares to join us, come on down. December, that'll be December, yeah. That'll be June 21st. We are starting at 2:30 and having ceremony. Summer solstice. Come down and check us out. Thanks. Look for the ad. Adios.